Let me just pull it up. Where is it? There it is. What? Manly first.
No, that was round one.
Oh, that's round 1. Yeah, cool. Round 27. How'd you know that I was looking at that for round 1?
As I did the same thing,
Oh, okay.
just in that moment.
Yeah, nice. Okay, yeah, that's odd how they don't just give you the final ladder when you're looking at previous years. Anyway, um, cool. Want to start from the bottom or start from the top?
Sure, let's go from the bottom.
From the bottom. We got the
Yep.
Tigers at the bottom. And obviously we can change this around as we go. It doesn't have to be like, oh, you said this guy at the then da 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 da. Like eventually we'll realise that, oh shit, I need more space at the bottom. Where do you think the Tigers are going to finish, Henry?
No, I think they're going to finish where they finished last year. I
Oh,
don't
really?
don't see any dramatic change in their lineup. And this is going to be the first season that Benji takes over. Um, so I'd say 17 again. To be honest, I don't see anything that's going to drastically change their position in their team at least, and who they have acquired.
Yeah, so plug him in. Can you plug it in on your end or are you on like a phone or something?
No, no.
Yeah, sweet. Tigers. I have them at 15th.
Why is that?
I'm a big believer in Aiden Caesar. I think even though he was pretty slow when he was playing Super League or the highlights that I watched, I think he's the kind of player that gets underrated, like your Chad Townsends and your Adam Reynolds and stuff. Obviously, he's not up to Adam Reynolds' level, but I think he can do a lot for the Tigers on the field in terms of controlling, kicking, and that sort of stuff. If Benji picks certain people in certain positions, like Josh Felitti at centre, and really pushes, growing up and utilising his forward pack, because I still look at their forward pack and think, holy shit, like that's a finals level forward pack. You could win a comp with the pack they have. Like you've got Clemmer, Papali'i, Bateman, Yuto Kamanu, Justin Matamua is a gun. Who else? There's someone else. Fanua Pole is pretty good. Like it's a pretty stacked pack, and then you got Api Coruscant pulling the strings. So I think that pack should be utilised better. Hopefully, I have the same concerns you do with Benji. Like I don't really know if he's going to be any good in his first year of being a head coach. Like this isn't his first year of being a first grade head coach. This is his first year of being a head coach. Period. I think that's batshit insane.
Exactly. And
Like,
that's why my decision of 17 stays there. But I mean, you do bring up some great points. They've got some great names there, and bringing in people on the outside backs like Olam, coming from a Storm system, even though he didn't have a great season last year, um, bring bolsters their outside a little bit more. And I think that's kind of what killed them a little bit. But I think it's Jareem Buller who can be the
mate.
kind of he's going to be the kind of player that's going to really set them apart. That will help them climb the ladder. I could even say, with what you said there, right? Their back line. I mean, sorry, their forward, their forwards. I would say yes, you're right. They've got a really good pack there, but you need a really good, I guess, captain in Sullivan and Caesar to really drive it. And whether Jaden can do that, I don't know. I haven't seen him
Yeah.
enough, and Aiden, I haven't seen him enough. And then Dream Buller, we know he can perform, but can he steer a ship? I don't think so as well. Not yet. Not at his rookie years.
Yeah, the way I sort of see it happening is like Appy and Caesar will control the middle and all the players between them. So Appy will focus on the forward, Caesar will focus on his tools, in terms of like the 5'8", the fullback, and then the backs playing off them. If all goes to plan, right, and then I see Jareem, like, man, he reeks of somebody who's gonna like kill it this year and then sign for the Roosters. Like, bro, like,
Yeah.
they're gonna be like, Tedesco. If he, Okay, spoiler alert. I think he's gonna have a good year. But if he has a bad year, and then Manu goes to rugby, and then Suaalii goes to rugby too, I think they're gonna be like, yep, we'll take Jareem. Thank you very much. And the Tigers are just gonna be like, oh shit, that happened again. But
You don't think they would take a far logo from Storms?
I don't think they can. I don't think they can. I think Melbourne have proven that they will keep gun players when they need to. And I think Falogo is one they have to keep. You can't get rid of him. I would be, if I had to, I'd get rid of Jerome Hughes to keep Falogo and promote Pezzett into number 7. I think
Peasant really showed up, but let's leave that topic for later on. Yeah, okay.
I've
So
got Tigers
Tigers.
at 15. I just think a bit more stability, and just the roster they have should not be coming last. Like
Well, we said that last year, right? And I agree with. I think Andrew Johns talked about it a lot, and same as Gus. Especially Gus, actually, he really talked highly about the West Tigers and their stars that are up and coming, and not just their stars that are upcoming, but the team that they have. Appy, Clemmer, and so forth. Like these are people who've been in winning teams and winning systems. So, I mean, I can see them not being wooden spooners again, but just I think that I just don't know what Benji's like, and I think there needs to be, and there has been a big change in their whole club. But I think there's like you said, this is Benji's first head coaching role ever.
Yeah,
So,
bro, I don't get it. Like,
it's a big one.
Best case scenario,
It's
he's
silly.
still a bottom 4 coach. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if he kills it for somebody who's the head coach for the first time ever, he's still going to be like a bottom 20%
You're
coach.
cutting out.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still going to be a bottom 20% coach. Like, there's no...
Yeah.
No one is going to be in the top 50% in their first year of being a head coach, period. Like, it just doesn't happen. I don't care how good he is. I don't care how, much of an apprenticeship he's got.
Look at Ivan Cleary, right?
Yeah.
So, same thing.
Like, it's...
So, yeah, no, and I agree with you.
Yeah. But anyway.
Okay. 16. So, 16 last year, Dragons.
Yep. I have them
What are we thinking?
last. I have them coming last. I think... Well, they're kind of the opposite of the Tigers in that I really I think Flanagan's a good coach, as much as like James and Reece give me shit. Now that Flanagan's going to sign with the Knights as head coach like 2 years ago, or whatever. I think he's a really good coach, and but I think he's such a good coach that he is going to play the long game, because he probably reckons I'm going to win a premiership. Like, there are other coaches out there who would be like, oh, let me just get the Dragons to make the top 8. I think Flano's going to be like, oh, let me get the Dragons another trophy. And I think he's going to take this year to really take stock of the club and pull back and accept that it's going to be a down year, but invest in the future. So I think I don't like their roster, except for the obvious one, like Ben Hunt.
Jacob Little?
Yeah, see... I don't know if he can stay fit, maybe, but Jacob Little and who? Like, who's going to get him the quick play, the ball he needs to
Blake
do?
Laurie was playing,
but I like
had a
Blake
good
Laurie.
back end of the season.
Bro, I like Blake Laurie.
Played,
yeah.
He had a really good back end of the season.
Yeah.
He showed that he could do that. And same as Jaden Sewer. I'm not gonna lie. I felt like Blake Laurie, Jaden Sewer were pretty big. Big hitters in the middle for them. And I don't mind Francis Molo. I think he's shown that he can be their 8, but whether that's going to help Jacob play off the back quickly, I don't know. But Blake Laurie's hard hitting, Jaden Sewer running those lines. I think where they really need that help or assistance with Ben Hunt is that 13, and whether Jack DeBellin has that ball playing skills. I didn't see enough of him last year, to be honest, to even comment on that. But just looking at their lineup, personally, I see them as still where they are. I think it's a very tight contest between them and Tigers at the bottom. But I'd say Dragons 16 for me.
I just think that one bad injury to one of their top 3 players, and it's over. Like, they will clearly be the worst team in the comp. I don't like. Yeah, I think it's very much a year where Flano's going to be like, every single one of you are fighting for a contract right now because I'm going to try to get rid of you if I can. I think in 3 years, if you look at the Dragons team, you'll see maybe like 2 players, 3 players still in the squad that are in the squad right now. So I think if Flano only had to focus on this year, I think they wouldn't come last. But I think his mindset is very different. And he's already said, like, after the Manly trial, he came out and said, yeah, they're going to win the comp. You know, it's going to be a really tough year for us. But I think Manly are really going to push and surprise a lot of people and that sort of stuff. He didn't say they're going to win the comp, sorry. I misquoted him. But he was like, yeah, they're going to surprise people and they're going to play really well. And they could if they really tried. But he was very down on his own club. You know, he didn't really talk about any green shoots. He just spoke about, look, it's going to be tough. We're going to need to grind, all that sort of stuff. So I think he's already penciled in, this is a year where I'm going to take a hammer to the wall and see what the foundation is and then go from there. So that's why I've got them coming last. Not because I think they have the worst roster, but because I don't think they're going to be playing to win the most games this year. So the third team is the Bulldogs. They came 15th. Last year, some big signings. Who was it? We spoke about it last episode, which isn't going to ever see the light of day. But anyway, we'll Oh wow, sorry. I like to go to the website of the club, and Adam DeRusi, who is sometimes on another podcast called the SC Playbook, I'm pretty sure. He's been announced the chairman for the Bulldogs. So he was on the board, and now he's the chairman for the Bulldogs. Which
does that mean?
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I
only know that he's on the podcast, so I can't really comment on if it's going to be good or bad for the governance of the club. I will say I don't like the fact that Phil Gould, their head of football, is on Channel 9, and now their chairman is on a podcast. He's not on primetime television, but he's on a podcast, and it's like, I don't know, that feels weird to me. But I can't comment on him as a chairman and as a businessman. So yeah, I'd be speaking out of turn. Seems like a good bloke, but you know, plenty of good blokes would make shit chairmen. So can't really comment on that. But yeah, just some news that I thought was kind of interesting, kind of cool. But yeah, I have them coming 16th.
Interesting.
Which is actually one less than last year. Yeah, where do you have them? I haven't had a look.
I haven't put them yet, but I think, to be honest, just looking at the lineup, I think they will do better than the bottom 2, Dragons and Tigers. I think their lineup, and last year was kind of their real rebuilding stage for them, just to get those, I guess, people in order, and just testing out the water in certain areas. I mean, where it plays a big part for me is who they put for number 6 and who they put for 7.
See, this is where I disagree with you heavily. I don't think... Because you know how you said last year they were just working it out and that sort of stuff?
Yep.
And then you go through who they signed this year. Blake Taff, Jamin Salmon, 2 big utilities after they've already got some. Drew Hutchinson, another utility. Connor Tracy, another utility, who I think is a gun centre, but still another utility. Kurt Mann, another utility. Like, I don't actually think they've worked out where they want to go. I think they're still trying to work it out, and in the meantime, they've bought these guys who are first graders that they can plug into positions, but it's not a clear plan. That's my take on it. I think this year they're still working things out.
I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with you. But yes, I think they're more established than the other 2. Dragons and Tigers are still at the early stages, but I'd say Bulldogs is the next step up. Yes, they're still trying to figure things out. But I think they can, if they make the right decisions with their lineup, especially in the number 6 and number 7 role, and that's why I'm really pushing on that, because if they make the right decision, and what I mean by right decision is don't have Matt Burton as a 7, have him at most the 6, or put him back in centre. I think you put Matt Burton back in centre and have a 6 such as, and I was watching the trials, I think Toby Sexton can help with that. And then for that 6, I mean, I haven't watched him enough. I know whether that's Hutchinson, I believe there was someone else that was playing there. It was a
So
he had the neck injury at the end of
Carl
last season.
Oluwapu.
Oluwapu, and I don't think he's going to be fit and ready anytime soon anyway. But if they want to develop him, I'd still think he might be a better option than Matt Burton at 6, and having Matt Burton at that number 4, number 5 position.
I think Matt Burton at centre is a luxury the Bulldogs can't afford. If at Penrith, 100%, he's such a good centre. You should put him in Brisbane, absolutely, put him at centre. Even somewhere like, I don't know, even somewhere like the Cowboys, put him at centre. But I'm still a believer in what I saw when he was like not playing first grade, like when he was playing 20s and Reggies. I didn't see too much of him in 20s, but like he can lead a team if he needs to. I think he's just not confident in the team he's got. And I think that he needs that maturity to come through. Now, I agree that it's probably time to move him from 7, because he needs to learn to trust his team. And I don't blame him for not trusting his team a lot of the time. But I think moving him to centre is a move you do to win a comp. Like, be like, we're stacked. Let's move Matt Burton to centre. I wouldn't move Matt Burton to centre so I can play Toby Sexton and Drew Hutchinson as my halves.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. That's me.
I still think it's, put him in centre.
Yeah. I think I'm on my own over at Matt Burton is still a half island like you, James. Everyone tends to think,
just not a big fan of Matt Burton as a number, all in the middles, and that's similar sentiment to, and what I was banging on about last year, how I felt about my boy at Sharks, Nico Hines,
that's a rough one. Anyway, let's move on because we've already picked their ladder position. And it's
Titans. 14 last season.
I have no idea
whether they move him through. I think this is a tight one for me. I think looking at the Titans lineup, and I was surprised that they ended up where they were. I felt like they could have done better, and I think they actually performed better. I mean, they have a team they can outperform a team like Sea Eagles, in my personal opinion. And also they should have ended up higher than Cowboys and the Dolphins. Whether the coaching change of Des Hasler is going to make a big difference, that might be what needs to be done for them to be in the top 12. Maybe not the top 8. I'd love to see them in the top 8. I'd say Titans would probably have a soft spot for me, and I've always wanted to kind of see them come in the top 8. But for me, I'd say with Des Hasler in there, it's his first season with them. But I think with their lineup, I honestly think, you know what, I'm putting them at 12 here. I think they can wreak some havoc with the team that they have.
Yeah, it's a weird one for me because, like, I think Christian Wolf did a good job being their coach.
He wasn't bad. I agree with you. He wasn't bad.
But I think Des Hasler will be a good change for them. Even if it's change for change's sake. Like, it might just be one of those things where a different approach will kick him into gear for a couple of years. Long term, obviously, it's not ideal to keep having to change coaches to get people to buy in. The thing...
Well,
yeah,
sorry.
Go. No, we need to be into.
No, I was going to say, like, I think, just something there when you're saying that. I think Des Hasler has that old head on him, which helps with the maturity of the team. I think that's what lacks with some of their forward pack. They have such a, let's say, decent forward pack, and I still really dislike the fact that they appointed Tino as their captain. I don't know whether that was the right move and why they made that move at the time they did, but
Yeah.
to have a Des Hasler guide someone like Tino, who has shown he can help push the team even though they're not doing well. I mean, I dislike Tino. He's not a big. I'm not a big fan of him,
Like
but
as a player, or as a
his
captain?
work, he's mate. His work ethic is just when he wants to put work in and he does. He's one of the best players easily.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, like, it's, for me, it's, I look at them and I'm like, they have too many Ferraris in the forward pack. And like you said, right, like, I think Tino's a really good player. And I actually don't think that he doesn't put in. Like, you know how you think he doesn't put in sometimes? I don't really have that view. But I have the view that if you're a forward, it's hard to look like you put in every week. I think if you think about the competition, players who are like Tino, Payne Haas is probably the only one who you can look at and be like, yeah, he puts in every week. But even then, like, if you watch him defend, he lets through some really shitty, like he has some bad missed tackles in the last 30 games, and I don't blame him with his work rate. Like, it's ridiculous. But I just think they needed to take one Ferrari out of the forward pack and put a Ferrari into their backs. Because if you look at their backs, there's so many first grade backs in their team, but there's no one really that stands out as like that's the star in their back line. Like, from their 1 to 5, there's no one. Oh, not just their 1 to 5. Sorry, their wingers and centers is what I meant to say. Sorry, what were you going to say? Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say Khan Pereira is like I think he's gonna have a really good season this season.
Yeah, but
I think
I look at him as a finisher.
You see him as a finisher, and
Yeah,
I
he's
agree.
quick,
I
but
do agree. But what I'm saying is, I feel like he's gonna have a great season, and he's gonna be one of the reasons why their edges are better than they actually are. I think he's gonna mask that a little bit more.
I think if I would like to see
I mean, the great
different
debate
play
is
style,
AJ Brimson and Jaden Campbell as well, right? Who goes where?
I don't know, man. Like,
I think Jaden Campbell is their Ferrari. But I think when AJ Brimson is healthy, AJ Brimson's he's electrifying.
I think
he's good.
I think he's better, and I think a lot of people don't think that. I think a lot of people think, oh, Jaden Campbell, you know, he's probably the better player, all things considered. I genuinely think AJ is better, but he's been injured so much. Like, and you can't discount that because, you know, he has been injured.
I disagree with that, but yeah, keep going.
I don't know. Like, I think he needs to get a year getting fit and then push for fullback next year. But for now, I think Jaden's probably the best pick at fullback. But I just don't... Like, you look at the Broncos who made the grand final last year and they've got Herbie, right? Like, that's their Ferrari. And they've got other backups too, right? Like Stags and Cobbo and stuff. But I look at Herbie and I just think he's the star. When you go to Penrith, they've got great backs. But I look at Toto and I'm like, he's the star. Like, he's the guy. I don't see the guy for the Titans. Like, I don't... Who are they just going to throw the ball to and hope? I think they think it's going to be AJ, but he's not a center. He's going to have to learn the position, and it's a two-sided game. He's going to have to learn to defend there as well if he's going to be center instead of 5'8" or fullback. And even if he's 5'8", he's going to need to learn to defend there as well. Like, I don't get it. All that being said, I still haven't put them somewhere on my ladder. So I'm tentatively going to put them at 13. But I might have to move them around to make room for other people. I just think they've got potential to make it into the 8. And look, let's be honest. Everyone from 13 to 5 are probably going to be interchangeable.
Yeah,
so
for sure. For sure. I mean, you saw that last season, right? I think there was 2 points apart for a lot of the teams from the 8 to 14, to be honest. So.
Yeah. It's going to be really tight. But I think you can move on to the Dolphins now.
Yeah, sure.
Who finished 13th last
Dolphins.
year.
Mm.
I'm. You know what? I'm going to put him here.
I really like the Dolphins.
Yeah, I like the Dolphins too.
Yet again, they have a soft spot for me.
Same.
And it's because of their players. You might disagree with me here, but I'd like to see Hammer. I'd love to see Herbie. I'd love to see Jermaine Osako. He's probably one of the people that I love watching, and I wish Para picked him up.
Mate, I'm right
He
there
had
with
a
you for all of them.
breakout season. He had a breakout season last season.
Yeah.
And the other person I love the most seeing is Sullivan, right? I
Yeah.
think towards the back end of the season, I don't think he was performing as well as he was at the start of the season.
Yeah.
I think maybe a lot of things just caught up to him. But he wasn't where he was at the start of the season, that's for sure. And hopefully he has a great start. And Nikorima, I think, that small stature of Nikorima that people always, judge him for, he does a lot.
Can I just get on record?
Insane. Yeah.
I was wrong to tell you that Parramatta shouldn't have signed Jermaine Osako.
That's what I like to hear.
Killed it last year. And the talent was always there. I just didn't think he'd ever hit it again. And then, mate, last year, and even in today's trial, he was like far out. I was like, can he back it up this year? I think he can, man. Like, he was trying in the trial. Like, he was doing stuff. It was really good to see.
That's good. I didn't get to watch that. I might go watch the replay after that because he's one of my I think he's one of my standout ones. And same as Bostock as well. Watching him towards the end of the last season, it's going to be interesting how he goes. And I think a lot of people underestimate Jake Averillo, and he's yet another player I wish Parramatta signed, which I got so frustrated after hearing Dolphins sign him because he's so versatile, but they need to put him at fullback. He's either a fullback or he's a centre. But
I think they're going to put him
at centre. I think he will be at centre, but him at fullback, I think people underestimate his speed.
Bro,
he's got electrifying
so
speed.
Quick, man. And there was that one run he had, I forget against who, but it made a lot of people sort of sit up and take notice that he's not, like, he's kind of quick. But it's still a lot of people don't watch Bulldogs games, so that it still hasn't hasn't perforated through like the NRL community of how quick he is. And it's like, he is fast. He was just playing in a team that never put him in space. Like, I love Jake Averillo. And just going off what you said, I'm looking at the team now, and I like watching most of these players. Like, they're likable players too. Like, they're pretty likable. I know a lot of people don't like Felice Kafusi, but if he was in your team playing for the club you support, you'd love him, right? Like,
you kind of like him. Yeah.
He goes at the halves. Like, that's what you want, right? That's his job. You can't blame him for it. And off the field, he seems like a nice guy. Obviously, I don't know him, but And there's so many people who I'm like, they just need a shot, and then the Dolphins gave them one, like Jeremy Marshall-King, like they're going to do for Jake Averillo, like for Jack Bostock, right? Like Jermaine Osako, just getting shots. Sean O'Sullivan, these players here, like, they need to be first graders. Why is no one giving them a chance?
They need to,
Yeah. And it's like, that's why I like expansion. Everyone's like, there's not enough players to expand. I'm like, mate, you have watched no reserve grade in your life. How are you talking about how much depth of talent we have? Just because your club has shitty depth doesn't mean the entire competition does. Like, there are players out there who just need a chance.
Yeah, for sure.
And, like, talking about the Dolphins, it's just getting me excited. I want to put them at number 8, but I'm not going to. I might put them at number 10.
10's a really big push for me, but it's just because they're one of my favourites for this season. So, I'll put them as a 10.
Yeah, I'll leave them at 11 for now, but I'm going to be looking for teams to, like, put under them to, like, buff them up a little bit. I'm excited. They've got more depth this year. They've got, I think, more direction. The only question mark I have, like, everything I think this year has improved, except Felice. I have two. So Felice, Jesse, getting another year older, and I think they were really important for them last year. I'm not as concerned because they've got people coming through, new players coming through, like Flegler, to take those roles on.
Yep.
But the bigger concern for me is it's a transition year from Bennett onto... who's the assistant coach? Shit. Christian Wolf. I think it's Christian Wolf. Who is going to take over as coach in 2025, and that's the only concern I have. Are they going to transition to him, or are they going to really try hard this year? I hope and I expect them to really try hard this year, but you never know. It's hard to predict. So that's the only thing where I'm like, they might regress, and obviously it's harder to coach. Even if they don't transition and they go hard out this year, it's going to be a way harder job when it's not your inaugural season, and it's harder to motivate players and stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah, they've got a lot of workhorses when you think about that. And just like one last note, looking at similar comments to what you're talking about with Titans and the Ferrari aspect of things, the big names that they have that can really produce. I mean, we already named them, right? You get your Jermaine, you get your Avarillo.
Herbie.
Who I want to try and see really step up is Lance Teware.
Yeah.
Hopefully I pronounce it properly.
Just call him the house. A lot of people call him the house.
Well, hopefully he can perform this season, and hopefully that weight.
But dude, I don't even know if he
that he
starts. Like, Hammer at the back, Bostock and Jermaine Azarko on the wing, and then Herbie and Overillo at centre.
That's all they need, and then they've got some depth on their side. You've got Tessie New. I don't mind Tessie New. I think you don't like him as much, and I think he's got a lot of potential, but I don't think he's last season he showed some moments, but he got injured. But he still performed, and he played a whole game with an injured knee.
Yeah,
that shows you a lot of heart, right?
Yeah, I don't think he's a good first choice, but I think he's definitely a good depth player. Like, he's a squad player, absolutely. You've then got Tavare, if he can stay motivated playing Q Cup, that'll be good. Edric Lee.
Ewan Aiken had a great season as well.
Aiken.
He had his best season for a long time last year.
Bro, and could you imagine if Edric Lee gets back to what he used to be before his injury? Like...
Yeah, I mean, they've got a great depth then. Like, exactly what you're just saying there. Everyone besides Robert Jennings, I'm not a big fan of Robert Jennings, just because of how he performed last season.
Remember that try he didn't score?
That try he didn't score was just something else. But, yeah, that was my last few comments. I was just looking at their backs, and I just think they've probably got one of the best depths in their back line.
They've really stepped up in the depth department. I think their spine depth is probably a bit weak, except for hooker, like Max Plath, who I don't think is listed as in the first grade squad. No, he's not. But he's a hooker. He's really good. I really like him. Cody Nikarima can float between hooker and the halves, but I just think the depth in the halves specifically is a bit weak. But that's it.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of Katoa and Nikarima.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to talk about Milford.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Let's keep Milk out of it. Okay.
Seagulls. Fuck.
Seagulls.
Oh, damn, I don't know.
They're hard, right? I think it really depends on players like Tommy.
Yeah.
I'll let you go first this time. I spoke first last a few times.
I'm looking at who I want to put in my 8 potentially, and who might drop out of the 8 potentially, and I don't think I can fit them in. Like, I think they're going to end up 9th for me, because even if everyone is fit, I just don't think they have the shine they need, especially in the middle, to do what needs to be done to be a finals team. I think, like, I'll pull up the team now. I was just looking at the ladder before to sort of put them where I want to put them.
Someone who needs to have a breakout season, who started really picking up the last 2 years, I'd say Taniela Paseka.
Yeah. I
think the size of him, and just he's had some moments where he'll just run almost a full field after busting a line. We need to see more. Seagulls need to see more of that. He needs to have that work rate of a Haas. If he has that work rate of a Haas, that opens a lot up for them, because they have Olokawatu on the wing.
Yeah, but
who's a big player, right?
They've got Jake, they've got Hamole, and then like the next tier down, you probably have Paseka. But then after that, like I can't make a starting pack that I'm happy with. I shouldn't say that I'm happy with, that I think can make the 8 from them, right? Like I think
Agreed.
they're a middle short, and that's at full strength. They're a middle short. You're
Yep.
not going to be at full strength the whole time. Like it's,
Yep.
I think that's going to be their weakness. I actually have a lot of, and I always have this, so like whatever. I have a lot of belief in Tom being fit. I think he will stay fit this year, hopefully, fingers crossed. But even if he doesn't, holy shit, they're back. They haven't filled out their squad for this year. They've got a lot of signings to make. Wow.
Yeah, they've signed everyone in the bloody halves. They've got so much depth in the halves. Not that it's always the best that they have in the halves. I mean, who did we see play on the weekend? It was Jake Arthur and the guy from Tigers. Why blanking his name now?
Oh, I've forgotten. Luke Brooks?
Oh, no, not Luke Brooks. The other one.
Let me have a look.
It actually was 2
I hate
years.
that they don't show the Cup squad.
2 years.
It's not Galvin. I think he's still at the Tigers. Let me find out. And these Eagles. Oh, let's just go to the trial game and see what the team list was. But yeah, like for me, I just don't think their pack is a finals footy pack. Actually looking at their pack even more depth now, I think I'm going to drop them down to 10th. But do I see them finishing ahead of like with DCE and stuff, I think they still finish ahead of the Dolphins. DCE and Turbo, I think mean they really go well. Jake Arthur and Brandon Wakeham were the starting halves during
That's
the
right,
trial.
Brandon Wakeham. I couldn't think of his name. Yeah, Wakeham, I think, yeah, they've signed them.
Yeah.
But I think Luke Brooks, it'll be a big one for Daly to have Luke Brooks on the side.
Yeah, I don't like their pack. If you give them 2 middles, all of a sudden I'll probably put them at 8.
Yeah.
I think you've got Brooks, you've got Turbo, you've got DCE, Jason Saab.
I'm not a big fan of Saab.
I don't like him in that, like Toto or whatever, but I like him in that if he's got good people inside him, you just give him a little bit. You give him 1.5 meters of space, and it's a try. Like it's just quick. Like and he's Dom Young level quick. He's not Dom Young level in other places, but he's Dom Young level quick. So you just got to get him the ball.
I think it's just the character for me. I'm not a big fan of him.
Yeah,
Probably
but
what sets me apart from him.
Is it going to be Jackson Polo or Ray Vega? Or because Ruben Garrick is apparently going to play centre. Like I don't like that. I'd rather Garrick play wing. And you find centres. Like don't weaken your wingers, who I think are more important than your centres nowadays. To then,
I think Ruben had
Bro, I love Ruben.
had to stay at the wing, but I think that's not a bad move. When you look at the lineup that they have in the backs, you've got so much speed for their wingers that Ruben is, especially as Ruben gets older, Ruben isn't a bad option in the centre, and he's got really good decision making. If I had to look at that back. Yeah, but if I had to look at that lineup right now, who would make the best decision at centre right now?
See,
I'd say Ruben or Brad Parker. That's it.
Bro, this is the thing. Apparently, they're moving Brad Parker to second row. Like
I could see him moving to maybe a lock position, but second row. I mean, same.
I'm not saying it's going to be shit at second row. I'm just saying they don't have the depth to do that.
Yeah.
Like they don't.
And I think
that's
where that's a question mark,
like
right?
this is it's a similar thing with Burton for me. Like you don't have the luxury to do this. It could work if you had a different squad, but you don't have it. Like you need him playing reserve grade centre because when you need someone to come through, he's not gonna have the reps at centre to do that, and you need someone to do that, and he's your best option to do that. If that makes sense, do you know what I mean? Like, don't waste time this year playing him there because he's gonna need to play centre at some point. But anyway, we spent a lot of time on them. I've dropped them down to 10 only because of their top end. But I'm
13
really
for
not
me.
liking their pack. Next on the list is the Cowboys.
Cowboys. I like the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Whether I see them where they are, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah, look, I think the Cowboys are probably a hard one to predict for me. I think they can. I'm a big believer in Todd Payton. I know a lot of people aren't. I love that they've got Clifford back at the club, even though he probably won't start. They've got great depth. Tom Chester, Jake Clifford.
Oh, I just want to point that out.
Yeah.
I'm so glad Jake Clifford's back.
Bro. I hate that he left us, but I'm glad he's
I
back.
hate that. I hate the fact that Knights couldn't keep him. Yeah, I agree with you, and I think I gave you a lot of slack during that time. That is a bad move, and I don't see why you'd let him go or why he would want to move. And there must be something that really
It
just
had to be
didn't work.
off-field stuff. It had to be. And I know he was going through some stuff off the field, but I didn't know if it was club-related or whatever. But it had to be something off-field that meant he had to go away. Because, Jackson Hastings and him together would have been sick, I think. What could have been? Could have been? But, he's back now. They've got him, Dearden, and Chad. They've got Drinky at fullback, but Tom Chester as a backup. At hooker, they don't have as much leeway, but Ruben Cotter can absolutely play hooker if he needs to. He came through playing out hooker, which I don't know if a lot of people know. Reece Robson was at the Dragons, and Ruben Cotter was meant to be the heir apparent to be their hooker. And the Dragons messed it up big time. They signed Andrew McCulloch or something instead, which are had a great career, but holy fuck. I would not be losing a potential New South Wales Origin gun. And it was obvious, there was no question marks. There was no, I'm not... You know how sometimes I like to think I see things in reserve grade players that other people don't? This isn't that. He was a gun. Everyone said he was a gun. Everyone's like, what? Why is he leaving the club? He should be playing first grade. And it's things like that. Anyway, I don't know why I'm saying this, because Reece Robson is a gun. I don't know who the Cowboys have as a backup to him. But it's to have him there with Cotter, I think, is enough to get through the season. And I think it's important. Spine depth is really important for a successful campaign. If they can offload Luciano, I'm a big fan of whatever happens at the club, because, mate, far out. I don't know how to say his name, but Finefoyaki, bruh. Did you manage to watch any of the trials today at all?
No, I didn't.
Finefoyaki, bro, far out. He's a gun. And I'm gonna have the Cowboys at 7 for me. What do you have them at?
I got them at 8. I think
I had them
similar
at 8
points.
until I just looked.
Yeah. I think you had similar points to you, and I think they could easily be in my top 6 for sure. Even top 4, to be honest, if they can perform how they did. I think the big pickup for them was that depth of having Clifford there. Whether that's going to make a massive difference, and whether he can perform, that's something else. But watching someone... Actually, I lied. I did watch a bit of the game, but watching someone like Tom Chester, I would still say Drinkwater's their fullback for sure. But having that depth of Tom Chester there, I think Chester's probably going to be a really standout player in the next couple of years. Yeah. Unfortunately, he's behind someone like Scott Drinkwater. Yeah. And I think the only time he can get there is once Scott Drinkwater signs with Parramatta Eels and Tom Chester stays at the Cowboys. That's where we can see him really shine. But even their forward pack, right? You've just mentioned some people there. I think you've got your Reece Robson, you got your Ruben Cotter. I mean, you got your you got your big work rate players. Ruben Cotter. I mean, you're looking at Hillam Luki as well, having a really great end of the season last year.
On one edge, Nanai and Orfin on the other.
And Tomalolo is still devastating at the age of years.
Bro.
And even if he isn't, he's still
ages ago. He's still good.
Yes, he's not where he was, but he's
Jesse
still
McLean,
good, and he's still better than most.
Cohen Hess coming off the bench. Griffin Neem.
They've got everything they need, right?
Yeah.
And hence the reason why I'm not too sure, but Semi Valame on their wing, I think that's a big loss for Canberra. I think Canberra needed someone like him and they needed to keep him and just trust in him. But I think the new environment that he's in, he's really showed the potential he has. Personally, um,
Yeah. I think the question mark is that centre spot. Is it Viliami Vailea or is it Zach Labert? But both of them are promising, and they're not sure bets. Like, they're not sure things, but they've got two options there, right? That's big. And the other centre is Val Holmes, so it's not like you're juggling a lot. It's you give them a run. If they work out, great. If they don't, you've got another option. And worst case scenario, you can probably bring Cole Felt into the team to play centre. Like, he's slow, but it's centre, and he's older and experienced, so you can at least rely on him to hit a tackle and
well, I
stick.
was going to ask you that, yeah, just quickly on that. Semi Valame or Kyle Felt?
I I don't know. I if Kyle Felt is fit enough, I would pick Kyle. Um, I just I think if Kyle is fit enough and if he can pass as a first grade winger, I think I'd rather see him next to Zach Labert or Viliami Vailea, like just because they're so fresh into first grade.
Yeah.
I think he'd be a good mentor for them and to like make those calls and be really vocal. But at the end of the day, he can't be off the pace. If he's off the pace, Semi Valame, who is probably going to make more mistakes, but he's fresher, he's younger, he'll be on the pace a bit more. So
Oh, for sure.
that's
I
my take.
think, yeah. No, I think you raised some great points, but I mean, if I was a coach, I'd probably still put Semi in there and maybe put Semi at the start. Or you know what, to put some respect in Kyle, I'd say actually him, but maybe put Kyle in the first few weeks as a starter and see how he goes and see if he's on the pace. And if he isn't, then put Semi there, because I think where Cowboys were struggling last season was just getting themselves out of their own half, having the wingers work hard, and you saw a shift in the way that they played once they could get some momentum behind them. Because the only back that actually performed for them was Scott Drinkwater, right? Of course, their middles more like Tom Deedon than Chad Townsend. They were the only real two that I would say really still perform, and Valentine Holmes. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. See,
But everyone else for me was
I do
just
get you
even
right.
Murray Talangi. I think.
Yeah. I think Murray Taulagi and Val Holmes didn't live up to expectations. I think Val Holmes had an okay year. He scored a lot of
Yeah.
points, finished a lot of things. But he's supposed to be, how I was talking about like that standout in the back line?
Yep.
And when I say back line, I mean wingers and centres.
Yep.
For me, fullback and halves fall into spine. That's just how I like to talk. He's meant to be that, and he wasn't.
Yep.
Like, he was definitely good, but he wasn't elite. And then Tulagi is in a similar vein. Needs to be like Dom Young level good. Like, he needs to run a lot. He needs to finish a lot. He needs to take all his catches. He needs to be backing up. He needs to be chasing down players who make line breaks. Like, he wasn't last year. And I tell you what, and this is going to sound batshit insane, and I know it does, if Cole Felt is fit and on the pace, I think Semi Valame could push Murray Taulagi if Taulagi doesn't pull his finger out. Like, it sounds stupid, I know, to drop Taulagi instead of Cole Felt. But if Cole Felt is on the pace and is solid, I would be telling Semi, mate, you can still push Murray Taulagi, because Murray last year was not impressive to me.
He wasn't, but I don't see him going. And I think Murray, even at Murray's worst, he would still be better than most, to be honest.
I guess for me, it's more like a culture thing, where it's like, mate, you can be so much better, be better,
yeah, for sure,
and bloody do it. And just to tell like the rest of the team, like, yeah, look, Semi's trying real hard. He's a first grader. We're gonna put him in because Murray is taking the piss.
Yeah,
but I don't think he will. I think, it's being first grader is tough. He's really young. I think he's gonna, get a full preseason under his belt, and then come back pretty fit. Because didn't he go away and tour for the World Cup as well last year? Yeah. So like, it's tough for a young guy, right? Like, I'm not trying to degrade Murray Taulagi. I think he's a good player. I just, I think the opportunity is there for Semi as well, and I think Murray needs to not get complacent, which I don't expect him to. It's just like an option within the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Anyway, um,
Next one.
yeah, I've got him at 7. You got him at 8, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet.
Eels. My theme. Yeah, this is. I'd like to go first on this one actually.
Oh, really? Fuck.
And even just watching, even watching their trial. Actually, I didn't watch the full thing, and I think I saw this. I mean, I only watched the first half, and I said I wasn't going to watch the second half because it just was not bothered to watch the rest of it. To be honest,
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't because they got smashed. I didn't know until the end of the game that they just got hammered towards the end. But that just shows you a lot of, telltale signs of Parramatta. The classic Parramatta, where, we'll go on a lead, but then we'll just lose a lead and that's it. There's no, we're not to be found anywhere, right? Like our players aren't stepping up. This frustrates me. I'd love to say we're in the top 2. Love to put us in number 1 for sure. To be realistic though, and this is me pushing it, I still think they're going to be in the top 8 for sure. Top 6. I'd even say top 4 in my eyes. I think they have the potential to do it if they can get the problem's the depth for me, right? I think the backs are there's an issue with the backs.
Yeah.
One person I've got to say, which I agree with you, which I'm excited to see really have a good season this year, and I think, I'm saying it now, I think Sean Ross will have a breakout season this year.
Yeah.
There's just something about him just is showing some signs that he will have a breakout season. I don't want him at fullback. I want him at the wing because that's where he'll play the best.
Yeah.
And just seeing him run down Savage on the weekend.
That was a good
That's
effort.
the speed.
That was a very good effort.
Yes, that's the speed we need, and that's and yet again, like you said, effort. That's that's the things we need to do. We can't give up. And I would say, Sean Russell. The other person that needs to have a good season for me to even say top 4, I'd say Micah Sivo. He needs to have a good season because he's our guy that brings us out from that first few hit ups. And if he isn't, I just don't want to see him there anymore. I honestly don't want to see Sivo in the starting squad if he's going to act like, or he plays like he was playing last season.
See, I think you feel about Sivo a similar mindset to what I have with Talangi.
Yeah.
Like Sivo or Simonson. Sivo's probably going to be better, but mate, if you're not trying and fulfilling like 90% of where you should be, I'm bringing in the guy who's fulfilling 100% of where he is.
I want Simonson to stay where he's at. To be honest,
yeah, but you're talking about RC, bro.
I want to see. Simonson plays better at center. I don't think he's a winger. I think he's a better center than a winger.
But I think RC's a better center. Period. Like I think he's probably going to play in the halves for the cup. But man, I think if you guys are going to try for a trophy, I think RC needs to be in that team playing center. Just giving an extra.
Yeah, but
option.
he can be the other center. We don't have another center, right?
We're going to see him, mate.
Oh. Yeah,
Call yourself a Parramatta
That's
fan.
disrespectful, mate. That's disrespectful. Definitely Phil Pinacini, yes. Yeah, I'd say it's a hard one for me, right?
Yeah.
I would say we play Simonson there and see how he goes. Because Simonson has the speed and he has the ability on the centre.
Yeah.
Maybe RC might bring that creativity we need. But that is really dependent on how Lane goes, right?
Yeah.
I know Parramatta's going to play Lane, and you already know my sentiment on Lane. I'm not a big fan of him, but if Lane can play the way he did with Dylan Brown, RC will be that extra weapon they need, where he can use Lane as well, because he has that ball playing skills, right? He's got that step, he's got that speed.
Yeah, and I think Lane's got an offload, and if he offloads late, a centre like RC can track back to the middle and set up a really good second phase, whereas a centre like Bailey will catch it, either set up his winger or run forward.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think he'd be setting up a second phase shift back onto the open side. I really like ball playing centres a lot. Like a lot. I think they add so much, especially with a fullback like Clint Gutherson. What RC would allow to happen is Clint Gutherson would run one in from the winger, and RC would actually be the third man in from the sideline. So he'd get the ball So the half has the option of Lane or RC, or cutting them all out and going straight to Gutherson or the winger. And then if he goes to RC, RC's got the option of going to Gutho or the winger, and maybe even, depending on the lines they run, the back rower inside him.
Yeah.
I just like, and it's not so much the passing skill, it's the decision making that halves have, that they build up over a long period of time. And I love that at centre. And if you have a fullback like Gutho, who really isn't, like, he can pass, but I wouldn't call him a ball player. I wouldn't call him that sort of player, right? He's got to pass on him, and in the right, if a play's called and he knows, oh, I need to pass to XYZ, great. But I think it, and I would rather Gutho be a running option than a playmaking option. I think he's a better runner.
Yeah.
So yeah, like,
Okay.
I don't know.
That's the back line. I think I've got a lot of opinions on the back line, and we can talk about it all day. I think it might be a good session where we have more of a conversation of both our teams.
Yeah.
But a quick sprint on their forwards, our forwards. Sorry. The person that really stood out for me was Palma Tuolagi.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
I was laughing at the signing on that. Why Para's picking up another forward. Because you've got someone like Matt Dury who didn't get a good chance to start often, and I think he's got a lot of potential, and he showed that. And I still don't know why Arthur doesn't see that. It frustrates me, but Kelma, I think if he can be in the top 16, I think he's going to really show he's going to provide that, I guess, spark and energy that we need. And I'd probably put him on the edge, to be honest. Over Lane.
I don't know if you saw my message, but
yep.
At training, your starting back rowers at the moment are Sean Lane and Kelma Tulagi.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So.
Oh wow! So they're not putting.
Yeah, no Cardi starting on the edge at the moment.
Yeah, which I don't want Cardi there anyway.
Oh, really?
But no Jermaine Hopgood or
so
Ryan Madison.
So I'm not too sure who's going to be at lock, but one of your locks will be Ryan Madison or Jermaine Hopgood, I assume.
That's going to be a hard one for me because looking at the middles, Brendan Hands not middles, but the hookers, Joey Lussick and Hands, right? I mean, Hands definitely can't play more than a hooker role, maybe in the middle. But Lussick I could see come in as a lock if needed, playing that lock role, just because of his size.
The downside is BA's, and I'm sure you know this, I'm not telling you anything new, but BA's come out and said, I want an 80-minute hooker. So, yeah, Hands, I think he's the better hooker.
Hands has the highest ceiling, right?
Yeah.
But we know Joey's going to get the pick.
Yeah, Joey's leading the race at the moment. I hope Hands can bust out 80 week in, week out for Cup and maybe push in for your sake into the team. I think he adds a lot. And I don't understand the obsession with having an 80-minute hooker. Like, BA barely uses his bench anyway. It's not like he needs the interchanges for his prop rotation. Like,
it's ridiculous.
I mean, he never uses his bench. They get like 3 minutes a game. Like, bro, just use it on a hooker if you can. Like, it's not...
Yeah. And I hate the fact that someone like Polo and RCG, and you know what, they do put a lot of work. They put a high work rate in, especially RCG last year. I think RCG actually had a really good season last year before his injury.
Yeah.
Even towards the end of his injury, like after his injury, I still think he played pretty well. But he was astonishing at the start of the season. Like, he was as if he was at his prime, at his absolute prime. So if RCG can produce that this season, that'd be great. But for me, I'd say there's nothing. I don't see them going higher than 6, just because the depth of the backs and just knowing how Brad Arthur will coach. I don't see our forwards being used at their full potential, and we have such a strong forward pack.
Yeah,
such a big mobile forward pack that I would say it's
like Hopgood, Maddo, Lane, Bolo, Campbell Gillard. They can all offload as well. Like, it's ridiculous, bro. Greg,
exactly, and I can't like, just thinking about it and knowing that Arthur won't use them at their full potential, and not having someone like Matt Dury to have a full chance. Frustrates me. And anyways,
I think you're going to be fighting for the 8 with Souths. I hate to say it too. Like, after everything, they've got a great pack. They've got this. They've got that. But man, I think you're fighting for the 8.
Yeah, and I think it's our backs. Our backs is probably one of the biggest weak points, right? In my opinion, I think our forward pack
I don't know. Like, I think it's
would.
more your usage of your bench, because with halves, like if you didn't have the halves you had, yeah, absolutely, your backs are going to be a struggle. But with halves like Moses and Brown, I think they can make Penasini, Arcee, or Simonson, Sevo, and Russell shine. Like, they don't
Yeah,
need a lot. They just need to be competent, and they are. I don't know if you're going to have what you need from your ruck in terms of speed and momentum and getting over the advantage line and winning territory. So, because I don't want Mitch Moses having to kick you out of trouble, because that takes a lot of his brain power. Like, it takes a lot of brain power to be like, yep, I'm going to kick on this tackle to this direction because the fullback's out of position, or this is how I'm going to change where the fullback is to hopefully manipulate him being out of position so I can take a kick or whatever. Like, if the pack can be used in a way where they're just dominant week in and week out, which they have that you have the players for that, it frees up a lot of brain power for Dylan and Mitch to just think about what they're going to do when they hit the 30-metre line and they're 30 metres out from scoring. Like, that's what I want to see. I just don't think I will. And I think you'll be fighting with Souths to get into the 8.
yeah,
I'm going to put you at 9.
that's fair.
Just because I think Souths, like, I think BA is a good coach. I do. I don't, like, you don't make that many final series without being a good coach. But I've just been a bigger fan of Jason Demetrio.
Good segue. So Rabbits.
Yeah. So, who, I'm not going to hide it. I'm going to put them at 8. Because I basically just said that. So I'm going to put them at 8. I think they've got largely the same team, but I think Sean Kepi is going to be a very important signing for them. Not that he's an amazing middle, but he's a competent middle, and I think they really needed that. It's tough to talk about Jack Whiten given the injuries they've had come through. Also, low key, have you been on South's website?
No, I haven't.
They're the only one that's different from all the other teams, and it's actually pretty good. Like, I like it. I wish other clubs had unique websites instead of following the same template.
Interesting.
Because, yeah, every other club is the exact same, but Souths are different. The thing that pulls me back for Souths is the injuries they've had. Like, with Tyrone Monroe and Campbell Graham, it's going to be tough, man. Like, who comes in? Thompson?
Yeah.
And who's the other centre going to be? Tars? Like, I don't know.
Well, you got Jack Whiten, right?
Yeah, well, Jack Whiten's one centre. Isaac Thompson plays on the wing. And then Isaiah Tars probably takes the centre spot.
Yeah.
Right. Because the other options are Richie Cannar, Tane Milne. And I don't like that for that long a period of time.
We got Jacob Gagai, who I haven't seen that much of, but yeah.
Yeah, he's getting up there in terms of age, I think. Is that the right one? Jacob Gagan, maybe, is who I'm thinking of?
Gagai?
How old is this guy?
Gagai?
Jacob Gagan
Gaga.
is an old player.
Yeah.
This guy is different. He's a different player. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, you got some great points there. I think, for me, Rabbits are at 9. I think 9 and 8. If it wasn't for Eels being my team and me believing in them, I'd say Rabbits would be my 9, and mainly because of their middles.
Yeah.
And similar points to what you said there, Campbell Graham not being fit. I think they're still having Alex Johnson as their winger, who doesn't bring them enough line speed, well, not line speed, but enough punch at the back when they kick it, when a team kicks it deep, and it's a bit of a kicking contest. And it's right. I think the commentators are right, and I think commentators say this a lot. You give Rabbits a penalty to come out of their half, they're really good at the red zone. They can score at the red zone. Can they bring themselves away from their first 50 meters? That's where I'd say they struggle.
And that's why I think Isaac Thompson needs to be replacing Isaiah Tars on the wing. I think he needs to be there because he's got a good carry, and he's got a lot of deficiencies in his game, but I think Souths desperately need a carry out of the back. Because you know what you said, like you talk about their middles. If they were structured in the right way, it's actually really good. Like Tom Burgess had a really good season last year, very solid. Tavita Totola is very solid. Cameron Murray's a beast. Jai Arrow is really good as well. You then got Tallis Duncan and Sean Kepi. And then below that for depth, you have Daniel Saluka Fafita, who's a beast. I don't know if you've seen much of him, but
Yeah,
he
I've seen
killed
him.
it
Yeah,
last year in Cup. And Davi Mawali, who I'm not as sold on. I think JD probably puts him higher than Saluka Fafita, but I'd have Saluka Fafita higher than him. That's really good. The problem is they've got Keon Koloa Matangi, and that's it in terms of edges, right? That they trust. I'd literally just plug Jacob Host there and tell him, look, make your tackles. Let us worry about the rest. I'd put him on the same edge as Jack Whiten, so you have more attacking options on that edge if you don't have Kolomatangi. And just tell him make your tackles so that you can.
You
have
don't think Michael Cheekham should be there on their edge?
No, I don't. I don't think he's got the stability. Like, I don't think he can be the guy where you're like, look, just make your tackles. Make sure you don't make a defensive mistake. I think he will make a defensive mistake, and that's fine, right? A lot of people do, but that's not the play style I'd go for. I'd say I'm just going to forget about you in attack for the most part, right? Like, you're not, like, we might give you the ball to get a quick play of the ball or whatever, maybe some second phase, like whatever. But that's not what I'm going for. I'm going for stacking my middles with Cameron Murray, like all the players I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Having Jack Whiten as the option on that edge, and then having Keon as the option on the other edge, and just letting him rip. That's how I play it. And I trust JD to be the type of coach who might not copy exactly what I'm doing. And I think that's a good thing, because I'm not a very good head coach, as much as I like to think I am. But I think he will have a way to play around with the team to make them at least cross the 8. I think they should make the 8. I think them and the Cowboys were very big disappointments last year, and Parramatta.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, if you don't have anything left to say, we can talk about the Raiders.
Yeah, I think all your comments. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add to that. Raiders.
Yeah.
Raiders were probably my favourite for a while. When I say favourite, they're one of my teams I love watching. In the 2020 season, 2021 season. They're really fallen off for me, though. I think Jack Whiten leaving as well is a big loss for them. I was shocked to see their position last season to be in the 8 at all, to be honest. For me, that's a big win for them. But I don't see them, for me, I don't see them improving more than... They could be 11 or they could be a 14. To see them in the top 8 with the squad that they have, I don't know. In my opinion, they've got great players who I'd love that Para pick up, but of course, yet again, you can't have an unlimited cap like the Roosters. But Joseph Tarpany, I think Papa Lee is now coming towards the later end of his career, and I could feel it last season, or I could see it last season, even though he wasn't playing rep.
He definitely wasn't as good as he used to be.
No, and you could feel it. He's still good, but he's kind of like a Tamalolo, right?
You know, he can like the second best player.
He'll produce, but he's not. Yeah, he's not where he should be.
Where he was. Yeah.
Corey's gonna have another. I feel like he's gonna have another good season. I'd love to see Corey really do well. And the other player I love in their back, or as their forwards, is Hudson Young. I think he's probably yet another player, but I think he's going to play well along with Zach Wolford.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets talked about enough, Zach Wolford, to be honest. I think he puts in big yards.
Apparently Levi's still in front of him. I don't get it. I love Zach Wolford. He's so good. Yeah. Come back to Newcastle, buddy. I think he was at the Knights for a sec. I don't know if he was, but I think he was. Let's have a look.
Yeah.
And then, you've got other players like Zach Hosking, who's, I think, really good. I think Zach Hosking is a very decent player. Or maybe he was never at the Knights. Anyway, not important to the discussion.
Watching Daniel Levi on the weekend, though, I watched a bit of that game. Daniel Levi really stood up, like
Yeah, but it's a
showed
trial.
some leadership
But
in
it's a
controlling the
trial. I
pack,
don't. He
in my
always looks
eyes.
good playing cup. He looks like a weapon when he plays cup, and I see
Yep.
trials as the same thing. He could be good in first grade, right? Like, I'm not saying he's shit. I'm just saying Zach Wolford for me is the standout choice, and then him and Levi and Starling can fight it out for the bench spot.
Sure.
Um, I
I think personally, I'd still pick Starling because he's got that. I don't know what it is, but he's got that
I
punch.
just think he's got
And I
more
think it's
upside.
that
I think
little
Levi's
stature of
older,
himself.
less upside. I
Yeah.
think you pick Starling because they're about the same, but Starling's got more upside long term for you. Like, I love the Raiders in terms of some of the players they have, but I don't think they're there yet. I think if I was the Raiders, I would be biting the bullet this year, kind of like I think the Dragons are going to, and just punching up my young guns, right? I would be picking one of Chevy Stewart or Xavier Savage to be the fullback long term. Personally, I'd go Chevy Stewart just because they've dicked around Savage for so long. I think you need a clean break. I'd be putting Ethan Strange in at 5'8" instead of KO Weeks. KO Weeks is still young, but whatever. I'd be putting James Schiller into the team instead of Jordan Rapana. And I'd be trying really hard to get Ethan Sanders, I think, from Parramatta early. So,
I really hope Parra don't release him, but I don't see him playing on.
well, he's already signed. Like, he's gone.
Yeah.
So, like,
Oh, he's actually signed.
yeah, he's signed. He's gone. He's just gonna stick
Oh,
around at Parra for this year, and then he's gone. So, like, I think that's a big mistake. You guys should have kept him. But anyway, sorry, and I think I made a mistake. I think Ethan Strange should play centre, and then the other Ethan should come in and play 5'8" next year.
okay.
Anyway,
I still
wherever
think
they play for
Rapana
the New
should be
South
their
Wales
winger.
19s, right?
I disagree with you there, but
Hey?
Rapana should still be there.
No, I'm done.
I
I
dislike
think he's
Rapana,
better.
but
I think
I think
Rapana.
he's still
I think he's better than
he's
Schiller. 100%. I agree with you. But I think this year is the year where the Raiders say, look, screw it. We need a clean slate. We need to start building, and let's build early because we've got all these kids.
yeah. Well, we'll see, and I think that's why my decision of where they sit is going to be at the 14 because of that rebuilding. I think they need to cut ties with Nick Kotrick as well, just to loosen up the cap a little bit. I think he needs. I think his season, like he's on the downward spiral with his career so far in the last couple of years.
I think this is going to be a turning point for him, or a sliding doors moment. He can decide what his next 5-6 years look like based on this year. I think he really needs to put in, and that you never know, that could make him into an Origin player again. But I just think the Raiders have all these young guns who aren't quite first grade ready, but I'm going to put him in anyway. Because right now they've got a really good platform in terms of the pack. So if you're going to get a baptism of fire, this is probably one of the better ways to do it. And I'd also be really shaking it up. What does the team look like in 3 years? Let's work towards that, because I don't think they're pushing for a comp right now. I think they're treading water, I think, is a really good way to put it. They're just staying in the same spot, keeping their head above water, but not really pushing in a direction. They haven't picked a direction that they're going to go in. Do they go Chevy Stewart, or do they go Savage, or do they go Seb Chris, who isn't that old, but I just don't think he's a fullback. Right? They keep pulling themselves in different directions, and I would stop, pick a direction, focus, really hone in, and try to nail it. I have got them at 12th because I think they've lost more than they've gained. And I think they were very, very lucky to make the finals last year.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I don't see them getting any better than they have. And losing the Arsenal that they did, it's a big one.
And I could quite easily have them at 14 as well. And
yeah.
I think they're going to drop down to 13 once I decide where I'm going to put the Sharks.
Yeah. Okay, let's try and do a little bit more speed rounds besides when we get to Knights, because I know that's your team. But let's try to hit some speed rounds in the next ones.
Roosters, I think they're on the up.
I think they're the top 4 for me. Yeah. I don't see them dropping out of the top 4 this season. They had a terrible season last year with the squad that they had, but
I've got them second.
Yeah, that's fair.
I've got them second. I think they're going to get a home final. I think they started slow last year. I think Robbo's going to fix that. I think he's going to be I want a home final next year in the top 4.
You know
And
what? Thinking about it, yeah, I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be a top three. I don't think they're going to be the top two. I still have my
yeah,
idea on who the top two will be, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've got him at 2.
Yep.
I think, mate. I think Teddy's going to have a comeback year. I think Brandon Smith is going to have a comeback year. I think Dom Young is an amazing signing. As much as it hurts me to see him play in a Roosters jersey, like, it's
Yes, for
bullshit.
sure.
It's bullshit. I think Sam Walker's another year older. I think they've got a lot of backline depth which they didn't have before. And
Yeah, Lindsay Collin on that avocado and pushing himself like he has been,
Yep.
and have kind of Watson Hale healthy
Spencer
and back
Leniu,
in the line
Jared
for their utility
Hargraves.
player, and have a Victor Radley stay off the sin bin.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
you're
Angus
looking at a good
Crichton's.
squad.
Yeah, Angus Crichton as well. I think across the board, exactly what I said last year about them. Great squad. They've added Spencer Leniu, Dom Young. I think a lot of the players who regressed last year are going to get better, especially, and this is the biggest one, and I've mentioned it for a couple of players, individuals. I haven't really made a big point of it. I'm going to make a big point of it here, and just to slow us down a second. No World Cup. Players like James Tedesco and Brandon Smith getting a good preseason in, I think is going to be really important. And I expect them to be S tier for their positions this year. But so yeah, I've got him second. You've got him third. Let's go with Cronulla.
Cronulla.
Yep, I'm torn on Cronulla, but see, because Cronulla were doing what I wanted them to do 2-3 years ago and putting Braden Trindle into the halves. I think by the end of the season, or even at the start of the season, Tricky Trindle is going to play like a 7, and Nico's going to be playing like a 6. And these are all good things, but it's hard to get into the 8. And it's like, yeah, it's difficult. I think the Rabbitohs, Eels, and Cronulla are going to fight for one spot. And I'm going to put the Sharks at 10 and move Manly to 12. Oh, that's so low for them. But, anyway. Manly to 12. Titans to 14. And the Raiders to 13. So
Yeah, this one's a hard one for me, Sharks. I just don't know. Like, I think, like, just looking at...
I think they're a top 8 side, but there's too many other sides that have more potential, in my opinion.
Just, like, for me, it's a balance of, is it going to be Sharks at 7, or is it going to be Knights at 11?
Yeah.
Or 7, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is a hard one for me, because Knights just showed, yes, they had a good streak at the end of last season, but a good streak isn't... And we've seen this with Parramatta, right? They don't last. Yes, you have one good season, but Knights didn't really bolster themselves up. Besides, I think, someone who will help bring there, and this is controversial because he's been there before. It's more of his comeback. Jack Cogger, I think he played massive. But before I go into that, Sharks for me, I'd say, far out. It's a difficult one. I'm going to put them at 11 for now until we have that conversation about Knights, because Knights is our next convo. And before I go into Knights, yeah, looking at Sharks and their middles, I think we need to see better combinations with Nico and Trindle. But Trindle needs to take that 7 and really own it.
They're doing the right things. I just think they're doing it too late. It should have been done as soon as Nico signed.
Yep.
I think they're gonna have some teething problems. I think Craig Fitzgibbon is still trying to work out the best way to use his forward pack. I think that's evidenced by him signing Adam Fanua-Blake. Because if you look at their pack, and I might have messaged this to the group, I'm not too sure. If you look at their pack, they've got some very good middles. They've got Toby Rudolph, Royce Hunt, Tom Hazelton,
Cameron McInnes.
Cameron McInnes. That's 5. I haven't mentioned, Delphinukin's older and he was injured, all that sort of stuff. But to have him as your 6th best, I think is really good. But I think he's still trying to work out the best way to use them. And I think that's still going to be a teething problem. I think it's an issue with a lot of new head coaches, which Craig Fitzgibbon is a new head coach. He's a very good coach, but I think he's just, he hasn't pulled the right reins, and he hasn't got his mixture right yet.
Yeah, agreed.
And that's why I don't have them making the 8, because I think Parramatta, BA's had a lot more experience. JD, I've been a big fan of for a very long time. He's been a head coach for a very long time. In terms of Newcastle, I think they will regress this year, but
top 6.
I expect them to be 6th. I expected another home final.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being is, while Dom Young is a massive loss, and I think people are underrating how big a loss he is,
Yep.
I think at the end of the day he is a winger. I think there's still upside left in that team. Adam Elliott was injured for a very long period of time. We played Kalen Ponga at 5'8" at the start of the season. People forget that, and then he was out for a number of weeks. Jackson Hastings was playing with a dodgy foot. He could barely kick. It was like, I think that might have been most severe at the Tigers, but it still hampered him last year at the Knights, right? That's why he wasn't a good goal kicker. So I think there's a lot of potential for people to grow. Now, I'm not stupid. I know somebody like Bradman Best was redlining. I don't know how much potential there is for him to grow. There is. He can add things. I just don't know if he will. I hope he does. Kai Paul Pierce, again, upside. Lachlan Fitzgibbon ran some of the best lines in the comp, but he had a lot of other deficiencies in his game. I'm very excited to see Dylan Lucas and Kai Paul Pierce have a crack at that other edge. Tyson Frizzell is also looking to move over to the left and add some punch there, which, we'll see how that works out. But the Safidi twins, there's a lot of room for growth there. I think both of them had down years last year. So I think there's room for growth in them. I think Leo Thompson and Matt Croker are only going to get better. I think we've got the right amount of depth in our team now in terms of our pathways are starting to produce some very good players. Like, we've got somebody by the name of David Armstrong who killed it in the trial today. He's a fullback. We're going to let him go if he finds a club that wants him. And I think a club should want him. He's very good. But that's because we've got another guy who's younger and is going to come through. Christian Mapapalangi was knocked out in the first tackle of the trial. He's a gun. I would play him at centre. Greg Marzu, he was redlining, but I believe that he can come back. Personally, I'd play Dane Gagai as a replacement on the wing for Dom Young. I know that's not going to happen, but I'd play Dane Gagai on the wing. Hopefully Mapapalangi is healthy, and I'd play him at centre with Bradman Best as the other centre. So my 1 to 5 would be Kalen Ponga, Dane Gagai and Marzu on the wing, and then Christian Mapapalangi and Bradman Best at centre. Mapapalangi used to play fullback and 5'8", so he goes to, I'm a big fan of ball playing for centres, like I've said before, for Parramatta especially, and that's why I want him in the team at centre. Tom Jenkins is a very good player. He's coming from Penrith, coming from that system, but he's got physical attributes that a lot of people don't have. I think it's a good question to have, but they need to be very clear with the vision in terms of who's going to be the 5'8". Is it going to be Tyson Gamble or Jack Cogger? I think people are idiots for saying it's a battle between the halfbacks of Jackson Hastings and Jack Cogger. To me, that's insane. Jackson Hastings needs to be in that team at number 7. He loves getting the ball, and we need somebody who loves getting the ball so that it's not just Kalen Pong is getting it at first receiver all the time. I've spoken a lot. I've spoken really quickly. I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss anything. That's about it. I think we have a lot of room for growth from last year. I think we lost a lot of close games. I think we also won some games that we might have lost as well. I think overall we regress with the loss of Dom Young and with so many players redlining, but I think we have the potential for growth, and I think I've outlined very clearly where that potential for growth is. Right? Last year in the preseason, everyone was looking at the Cowboys as a team who went really well, and then where's their growth going to come from? And the answer was, well, everyone needs to improve 10% across the board. That's where I think they failed. I think they didn't identify their weaknesses very clearly, and they didn't focus in on how they're going to improve. They just said everyone 10% extra. Well, how's that going to happen? It's very easy to say that. But how? What are you specifically going to do?
Where does it come from? Yeah.
I have just outlined a number of things that where the Knights can improve, while also balancing where I think they could regress. I think overall, just because of other teams getting better, we regress slightly. We finished 5th last year. I think we're going to finish 6th. But that's more relative to other teams. I think overall we still get better as a team. It's just, teams like the Roosters are going to kill it and push us out.
Yeah, I think you made some great points there, and some of the things I don't think about. I mean, it's your team, right? So you think about it more deeply, but I think there is still a question mark on their halves, and yes, I agree. I don't know. Don't know whether I agree with you yet. Whether Jackson Hastings and Jack Hogger is a sure thing. When I say sure thing, Jack Hastings being the 7 over Jack Hogger.
Yeah.
But seeing Jack Hogger play with Cleary in that finals as a 6, played that really well. But I actually like Tyson Gamble's, like, just he's
His tenacity, I think.
his energy. This is just something else. Like, I told you this before you even came to the Knights, and I said Tyson's actually a good signing, and it was a bit of a joke in the chat, but I honestly thought Tyson Gamble just needs to be given a good chance, and he took it with both hands last season, and he showed you what he could do. And I think if you were to have someone that's going to produce something that is just out of the ordinary, which you need, and I think you need that because you have Kalen doing that, but you need someone else doing it. I think Tyson does that, but I don't know. Jack Cogger and Hastings, just I'm not too sure, and I think that's my uncertainty in your halves and your wingers are, like you said. I feel like your wingers are redlining last season, and Greg Marsh is the only one I feel like still has more growth in him. But Badman Best, I think he had a stellar season last year, but whether he can back that up and improve, I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it's a big one. And if your forwards are, I think your forwards, you've got a really good forward pack. And now it's just down to your hooker, right? Who's going to be a hooker? Is it going to be a Phoenix Crossland, or is it going to be a Brayley that comes through?
Brayley has a hamstring strain, so.
Oh, there you go. I didn't know that.
Phoenix, yeah, like it happened a while ago, so he should hopefully be fit for round 1. But even then, I think long term, and I've said this before in the chat, but just to get on the record, I think long term, Jaden Brayley is our main hooker. I want Phoenix Crossland playing reserve grade in the halves, and because he's only like 22, 23 years old. And long term, he's going to be our halfback because he's showed the personality, the grit, the determination last year to turn himself into a hooker. Now imagine him in the position he's been playing since he was 6.
Yeah.
Right? But he's been dicked around. He's been playing lock. He's been playing off the bench. He's been playing a hooker. Like, his development stalled. And so every time he gets a chance, he's been coming off the bench for the last 10 weeks. How's he supposed to be a halfback? So
exactly.
For me, early season, Phoenix starts, obviously, because Brayley needs to get fit. If we're going to win the comp, I could see a world where Tyson Gamble is the 14 to allow Phoenix to play reserve grade to develop. But I could also see a world where Phoenix plays 14 and relieves Brayley and is a bit of a spark plug and also half cover. Just because I think Tyson's a big body.
Yeah, I just haven't seen Phoenix talk enough. And you see when Knights are down, you see the way Tyson Gamble is in at them. He is there. He's your energy. I'm telling you now, you're going to see it in those grindy games. You're going to feel his loss in those games.
Yeah,
I just think he's the other voice to Kalen Ponga, right? Kalen Ponga's yelling. Campbell's yelling. Like, those two players are your loudest voices. They're the ones that really, like, when you guys are down and out, those two are really speaking up.
I get that, but I actually think you're underestimating how much Jackson Hastings talks just because he's not as animated with it. He's very loud, he's very clear, he's very direct, he's always talking. And the other thing is, Jacko always gets the ball. Like, the amount of touches he has is insane. Like, I don't have the numbers, but even relative to other halfbacks, he's just touching the ball all the time, and he's direct. So he does actually step up. It's just not in a way like and this is a quote, I think, from, it's not a quote, but it's an idea, the way he explained it, I agree with, from Nick Campton, who writes for ABC and is on a podcast called Boom Rookies that I like listening to. He said it on Boom Rookies. Tyson Gamble is like Josh Reynolds. Very, very good player, but his best value is short term. He's an energy, he's a spark plug, he's that changes the team around, but long term, if you like, it's hard to make that not get old. Like, you talk about Tyson being the voice when it's a grind and when when you might lose. I don't want to be the team that might lose. Like, would you ever say that about Penrith? Like, would you
No,
ever
it's not
say,
even just but
like,
it's not the might lose. It's the grind aspect.
yeah,
It's
but
when
would
you're
you ever
going
say it about
back,
Penrith?
like when
Would
you're
you ever say Penrith
that
need a
1 2
Tyson
point.
Gamble?
Say that again.
Would you ever say Penrith need Tyson Gamble?
No, for sure not. They don't need him. They've got the players that do the same thing as him.
Yeah, but
So
not in
no.
the same way. Like, who do you say is his loosest gamble? Maybe Luai, but I don't think so. I actually think Luai's pretty reserved, except for when he's celebrating and like that sort of stuff. But on the field, in terms of yelling at people, like, I think you don't. I think it's going to be very interesting to see if Tyson Gamble or Jack Cogger play 6. I think Jackson Hastings' spot is not in question, and it shouldn't be in question. And I don't
agree
know
with you
who
there.
I'd pick at
I think
6.
it's for me it's a Gamble or Cogger situation. It's not a Hastings situation. I agree with you there.
Yeah, I
just
don't
don't
know who
know.
it's going to be. I've changed my tune on Gamble. I like him. I just don't know who I'd pick yet.
I think you need a Cogger. Honestly, I think the Gamble you do need him as well. But who do you need the most? I think, or who would provide a lot more potential for you guys for sure.
Yeah.
Cogger, in my eyes anyway.
You can
You
still
need
play
that kicking game.
Tyson off the
You
bench.
need, yeah.
You can't. I know he played off the bench for Penrith, but at the Knights, I think you're better off putting Tyson on the bench instead of Cogger.
Yeah.
If you're gonna have if you're gonna have both of them in the team.
For sure, I agree. Yeah. He could play that utility role really well.
Anyway, next time we talk, and when we do like the deep dive into our clubs, I'm going to ask you about Tyson Gamble at centre. That just came to me just then. But we're going to move on and talk about the Warriors because time is getting late.
Yeah, I think the Warriors for me are they're your top. This is where I think Storm. I think I've made a mistake, and I think Storm might be out of the like. I think Cowboys have a higher potential in the top 8 than Storm, and I think Storm for me are on the down. But sorry, let me just go to the Warriors. I think Warriors for me is. I mean, you've already put your one down. You can talk while I think about mine.
So I've got them 5th. I think they finished 4th last year. I have them regressing just because I love Sean Johnson, but he played out of his skin last year. It's going to be very difficult to play just as good. I think they've made some good signings with Roger, but I think they've also lost somebody big in Josh Curran. I don't know what kind of personality Adam Fanua-Blake is going to be considering he's leaving, and didn't want to even be there this year. So that has me questioning him. I think a lot of players like Chance, like DWZ, were redlining. Again, there's potential there with Roger coming back, with Luke Metcalf having another season under his belt. But, does somebody like a Marcelo Montoya, does he still play as well as he did last year? I don't know. I'm not saying he won't. I don't know. I'm not too sold. Like, their forwards are good. But do they keep staying good? I don't know. It's a bit of a tough one. I have faith in Andrew Webster. I think they had a very good year last year. I think they're going to regress from that. But I think they're still going to be a very good team. I think it's very important that they play New Zealand, which obviously they are. And I've got them at 5th. Not for their reasons, more so for reasons that when we bring up the Storm, I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, no, I got them up 4, but I've got nothing really to add to that, to what you said there. I think the biggest thing for me is seeing RTS, what impact he has, and yes, what you said there, what Fanua-Blake has on impact of the team with his energy and how he's going to perform. Because he did play a big part in that middle area.
Yeah. I mean, he's there, but he's got 1 foot.
Is he really there? Yeah. Is he? Yeah. Is he really there? Okay, next one, Storm.
On Melbourne, I've already plugged them in, so I've got them at 4th. I might have had them at 5th if I didn't see Ryan Pappenhausen absolutely kill it in the first half of that trial match. Not so much like, I'm not saying, he scored a try, he's going to be so good. Obviously, it's a trial. But what I saw was him being really fucking quick. Holy shit, was he quick. He was moving really well. And it doesn't matter if it's a trial or not. If you're running at X speed or changing direction in a certain way, you can do that in first grade as well, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's the difference maker in terms of 4th and 5th for me. I think people always like discounting the Storm. I think this year might have some validity. I think their pack is a little bit suspect, even though they've got some really great names.
I think their forward pack for me is what kind of gives me that question mark along with
can I
their.
just go through it just to see if you still have the question mark?
Yep.
In terms of middles, they've got Chukwuemeka. They've got Christian Welch, who is now healthy. He wasn't healthy last year, coming off a big injury. Achilles rupture is huge. Nelson Asafa-Solomona. They've got a worker in Max King. So that's 4 middles.
I
In
don't
terms of
think
edges,
Christian Welch is going to have the season that he's had previously.
I don't think he'll go back. I think he will go back to what he was. I don't think he'll do that this year, but I think he's on an upward.
No, I don't see it.
That's my opinion.
But yeah, keep going.
Elisa Katoa was solid on an edge when he was fit. Sean Blaw has a lot of potential coming through. Joe Chan has a lot of raps on him. And who's the other one? I like Bronson Garlic as like a middle roamer. I don't really think he's a hooker, but I think he's a very solid middle roamer. Alec McDonald, solid. It starts to drop off very quickly after that. Apparently Trent Liera is a good middle. I don't know. They're considering stuff.
He's not bad. He's got some good work rate.
Yeah. My biggest concern with their pack is their edge depth.
Yeah, and that's why I think that's where Katoa is the only one which I can say for certain he'll do his work there. But other than that, I think it's just coming off potential, right? The other middles, Nelson and Kamikamitha, I don't know. They're both the same player. Big players, big units can be damaging, but both of them have emotions that can change the momentum of their team or change the trajectory of their team and how well they go in that game. We've seen it time and time again with Nelson. Kamikamitha, not so much, but Kamikamitha, I think you can see it come up every now and then. Welch, I think he's going, I just think he's going on, he's going down. I don't think he's going up, and I don't think he's going to go up anymore than where he was in the last few seasons, especially, injuries do play a big part in it, but I don't see him improving.
Yeah.
And their backline, massive. Yeah, they've got a massive backline. I think they've got some great names there in Fa'alogo, Will Warbrick. Hopefully he has an even better season this year. He's
Nick
still got more to prove.
Xavier Coates,
Nick Meaney. Exactly. They've got a really, really good backline. But let's see. I think for me they've got a lot of teething stuff now. I don't think they're as bad as a team like Raiders, Sea Eagles, Titans, or the Rabbits and Cowboys, where I think they're really in some ways still trying to figure it out. I think Bellamy's Bellamy, and I think he's got an idea of where that champion squad is, but I think it doesn't come from their back line. I think it's going to come from their forward pack, because that's where I think they, I think there's a lot of criticism with their back line last year, but to be honest, for me, it was their forward pack. Their back line was.
I think their back line steps up now with Ryan Pappenhausen fit and adding Nick Meaney into that back line.
And Reema Smith is, I think he's underrated, to be honest.
Solid.
I think
he's got deficiencies, but he's solid enough to be a first grader. Especially with someone like Cameron Munster inside him. Like, Jesus.
I want to see that Jack Howarth guy play a little bit more. I think
I want to see him on the bench. Coming as a second row.
He was playing edge, wasn't he? He was playing edge forward over the weekend. Mate. He played really well.
I also think Cameron Munster had a down season last year. Not bad, just compared to him. So there's upside there. So yeah, I've got him finishing 4th. And I think it's time we move to the Broncos, unless you want to get something out.
No, that's it. Yeah. Broncos, I think they are where they are. I think it's going to be a battle of Rooster and Broncos, to be honest, for the top 2.
Yeah, I think the main reason I think the Broncos are going to get better this year. But
They've lost
I
a
think the
Herbie and
Roosters
they've
are going to
lost a
get
Tillman.
even better.
Yeah.
See, okay, so the reason I'm not concerned about Herbie, even though I think he's the best centre in the game, is because I like Dean Mariner, and I'm going to trust that Selwyn Cobbo is the right option to replace Herbie at centre. I don't know if it's the right option. I don't think it is. Genuinely, I think Kevy saw an Aboriginal man who's big and kind of tubby and said, hey, if Greg Inglis and Latrell Mitchell can do it, why
Latrell
not you?
Mitchell dominating there. We'll put you there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I genuinely think that's what happened, which,
Yeah.
as bad as that sounds to say, I think that's what they did because he was lazy on the wing. Imagine him defensively at centre. But, hey, I'm not going to deride the coaching staff of the team that made the grand final last year, so I'm going to trust that it's the right option.
Yeah.
Dean Mariner is a very good player, and they don't really need backs, right? Like,
I don't.
when you have Ezra Mam, who did what he did in the grand final, and Reece Walsh another year on, Adam Reynolds controlling it, Billy Walters has come a long way, and they've got Blake Moser, who by the end of the season might be better than Billy. I think the biggest loss is Flegler. Out of everyone,
That's a big loss for me.
he's
Yeah,
the
I
one
think
that
it's.
doesn't get spoken about. Like, everyone's talking about Herbie, no one's talking about Flegler.
Yeah, he's got some awesome work rate, that banana farmer.
Like, yeah, I think how they cover his loss is going to be important. I'm worried about the experience in the pack, because they've lost him and Capewell. But in the same breath, Patrick Carrigan, Payne Haas, Jordan Reiki, Brennan Piakura are all very good players, and that's their starters. It's just, Kobe Hetherington is very solid, Fletcher Baker's very solid. I worry about their forward depth. That's my biggest concern of the Broncos going into 2024. But they made the grand final last year. They have some losses, but I think they've got the production line to maintain where they are. I just think the Roosters are going to be better, and that's why I've got them dropping to third.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I want to see Broncos on the up. As much as I dislike the Broncos, I think their team are still fairly young. You've made some great points there. I think their team's young and they've got a lot of upside. I still think Herbie's a big loss, more than you think he is.
See,
and I know you think he is a big loss, but
best centre in the game.
Yeah, but I think he's a massive loss for them. Tommy Flegler, same sentiment you had. I think he's a big loss for them as well. He puts in that work rate that Haas puts in. He puts almost the exact same, so that's a big one. And he's a hard hitter in the middle when it comes to defense. So
I think
big one there.
This is underrated. When people watch rugby league, like the NRL, I think they assume players are like the players on PlayStation, where if you press X to tackle, they will tackle.
Yeah.
They're humans, right? They're all like, you've been around pretty high-end athletes through, high school and that sort of stuff. I've seen, I've spoken to some athletes and stuff like that as well. I haven't been in a training environment yet, but that's besides the point. NRL players, I think, would hesitate to tackle Tom Flegler or get tackled by Tom Flegler.
Exactly.
I think they would run they would slightly change the line they're running. They're going to brace a little bit more. They're going to slow down. That's what I think they're missing.
Agreed. It's going to be big, and I think it won't have a big impact on where they sit. I think they'll still be in the top four. But I think they'll up and up. I think they only learnt so last season in that grand final only did them good. I mean, you're versing a team like the Panthers, right? It's the Panthers. They're back-to-back winners. They've got players that are there that are just out of this world. So I mean, Broncos did well, and I think they're going to come in the top four for sure. I think they'll actually be in the top two, to be honest. And they will still give Panthers a run for their money. But I think it's them versus Roosters. I think
I'm
it's
very sorry.
my
Yeah, I'm
problem
very
is with
excited for
yeah
this
my
year.
yeah my problem is Roosters and their halves and whether
Yeah,
Teddy steps up.
yeah,
Teddy steps up and their halves step up. I see Roosters and Broncos. I see Roosters taking over Broncos, and I see Roosters really contending with Panthers.
yeah. I think you made a great point.
Unless those three players, their spine in the Roosters really step up, I don't see Roosters going
And I want
above
to
and beyond three.
highlight their halves
Yep.
need to be a lot better. A lot
Yeah.
better.
A
Teddy
lot better.
only needs to make a few tweaks, and he's back to 90% of where he was in 2022.
Yep.
Right? He just needs to try a little bit less, right? Like, just trust his players a little bit more, focus on his execution of less things, and I think he's fine.
Yep.
Whereas the halves need to step up to allow Teddy to do that, and they've got a long way to go, Kiri especially, this year. But I think they will. I think they will. I've got the Roosters as second. I've got Penrith first. If you ask me in my heart of hearts, gun to my head, I don't know if Penrith actually finish first this year. Because I think, are they doing the World Club Challenge? I don't know if they are or if they have. But even if they're
Not too sure.
I think at some point, and I know they're freaks and they want to win everything, at some point, you need to let the gas off to make sure you're ready for the grand final. And I think that combined with Origin will mean they don't actually win enough regular season games because they don't have the depth they used to.
I disagree with you there. That's definitely where I disagree with you there.
So I'll just put it to you, and let me pull up the team. So if you're not too sure, I can give you some answers.
No, I'm looking at the team as well.
If they rest their spine, who's the next man up? Because in the past, it used to be really good. Like Mitch Kenny used to be the backup to Happy Coruscant. He's now the first stringer. Jack Hogger is gone. Like, is Brad Schneider going to be the guy who does the Jack Hogger role? Maybe, maybe not. If Luai's out, if Edwards is out, I think they've lost a lot of their depth. I think they will still be the best team in the competition and most likely to win the grand final. I just don't know if they're going to win the most amount of games in the regular season. That's all I'm saying. I still have them first. Just to be clear, I still have them first. I don't know how confident I am in putting them first for those reasons.
Yeah, I'm not too sure as well, but I still think they're going to be the first. And you make some great points. Are they going to win enough? And I think they are. Luai is not going to have. I don't think Luai is going to be picked for the blue squad again.
Yeah. Also,
I think he's had his moment, so they've got that depth back.
Do you really think the Roosters, Broncos, or Storm, or the Warriors are going to win more regular season games, even with Penrith resting? Like, I know I said it as a concern.
Exactly.
But I don't know if it's a big enough.
You don't see it, especially Broncos, right? Broncos lose a big chunk of their team.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. And I think the Broncos have a depth issue as well.
Yeah.
So,
but let's see.
Yeah. Anyway,
I think this is a good lineup. Getting late now for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think this is, for me, I think this is probably what I hope to see. I don't hope because I want to see Para at the top.
Yeah.
But this is probably the likelihood of where people will sit in my eyes. I think the top six, or not top six, but 6 to 14 for me is interchangeable. I don't see them being like any one of those teams can really, besides Dolphins probably and Sharks, or Titans, Dolphins and Titans. For me, along with Raiders, Dolphins, Raiders, and Titans, even if they have a stellar season, they barely put themselves in the 8, but all the other teams, Sea Eagles, Sharks, Rabbits, Cowboys.
Yeah, so I slightly disagree with you on the Dolphins. I think they can make the 8. I think everyone from my ladder 12 and up can play in the 8, which actually to me is surprising. I thought it'd be 14 and up. So, 12 and up, which leaves only 4 teams that I think could compete for the 8 that would miss out.
Yeah.
That's not as congested as I thought it was going to be. But I think those 12 are going to be really congested.
It's interesting you still have Raiders. I mean, you have Sea Eagles. Sorry, Dolphins as your in there over Titans. I think,
Yeah,
yeah. But we've seen the line. We'll see.
yeah, we'll see what happens. Like, if we're going to be wrong about two, and so we'll see which two we're wrong about.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's the Warriors last year I was really wrong about, and the Cowboys I was really wrong about last year. So we'll see what happens this year. I have a sneaky feeling. Yeah. Anyway, let's call it there because we're going to start rambling. I'm going to stop
Yeah.
recording now. If I need to find a hotkey for that at some point.